Welcome, everybody. This is the Getting Started with Mylio Photos webinar. Today, we're going to walk you through some of the basics on getting started with the application. And I want to go ahead and walk through a little bit about what to expect today. So we're going to talk about what the Mylio Photos application is, how to create a Mylio account and why you need one, installing and setting up the software so you're set up for success, adding photos, syncing your devices, how to browse and access your photos in your library, and where you can go to learn more. So we have a lot of information to cover today. And before we dive in too far, I want to introduce myself. My name is Angela Andrew. I'm a product evangelist for Mylio Photos, and I am also a professional photographer, fine art photographer. I love to travel. I photograph landscapes, cityscapes, just about anything that catches my eye. Most of the Mylio Photos team are avid photographers, so we care about our photos just as much as you do. And we're here to help you be successful and keep them organized, protected, and, accessible. That's the biggest thing, right? I'm also joined today by JC Figueroa. He's our
Hello.
customer success lead. So JC, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I am JC Figueroa. The customer success lead at Milio. What that means is that I manage both the support team and I work with the marketing side of the company to produce and deliver a lot of training materials because we want our customers to be successful, and we do that in as many ways as we can. I am also a photographer, although not professionally. I do it as a very intense and intentional hobby. Mostly I do underwater photography. It's been a passion of mine for many, many years. And I actually found Milio because I was looking for a replacement for Aperture and became a Milio user long before I became an employee of the company. So it's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thanks, JC. And later on, we're going to talk a bit about the sample library in Mylio Photos. If you're scrolling through those pictures, you're going to note a lot of underwater photos. Those are mostly JC's. So some really cool stuff there if you wanted to browse through some of his work. A few things that you need to know as we get going. We have a Q&A pod. So if you have specific questions that you want to ask throughout the webinar, this is the best place to put them because it makes it easier for us to keep track. We're also going to be keeping an eye on the chat. You're welcome to post questions there as well, but the Q&A is much easier for us to follow and make sure those questions get answered. And we also want to know a little bit about you and why you're here. So let me go ahead and launch the poll and we'll see. It looks like it didn't get carried over. So what I was going to ask during the poll is, how long have you been using Mylio Photos? Are you brand new? Are you in the free trial first 30 days? Have you been with us, a few months, over a year? If you feel like going ahead and putting your answer into the chat, that would be awesome. I just want to get an idea of where you guys are at so I can tailor the presentation to you. So let me go ahead and move on from this since the poll is not working. And if you have, for some reason, you need to cut out early and your schedule doesn't allow you to stay for the full thing, we are recording this. It'll be available in our community. You can go to topics and webinar replays. And we usually post that within about 48 hours of the event. So if you need to take off and you want to catch up on the rest of this later, feel free. We'll make sure that that recording is available to you. All right, so now we get to the fun stuff and talk about the application of Mylio Photos. So what is Mylio? It creates a secure and connected library using your photos from all of your devices and makes it accessible from all of your devices. It's very, very powerful. So when we talk about that, it turns all of your devices, your computers, your smartphones, tablets, external drives into a system for managing your lifetime of memories. And we make it into one library that's accessible from all of your devices. So you don't have to go hunting to all these different resources to find your photos when you need them. They're all in one place. No matter where you took them or where you store them, we can bring them together. So how does this work? We make different versions of your image to fit on different types of devices. So if you have a really large library, you can still fit the whole thing on your phone and browse through those thumbnails and even pull down high resolution, full resolution images when you need them. You can search by facial recognition, GPS, camera data, all sorts of different ways to search and find images when you need them. Editing is super simple. We've got some great editing tools built into the Mylio Photos app, but if you need advanced editing solutions, You can work with Photoshop, Lightroom, Luminar, On1, Radiant Photo, whatever your editing program of choices. Chances are Mylio Photos can work with it as an external editor. I do that all the time and it works brilliantly. I love editing. That's kind of my little niche there. So you can get access to your library without any need for an internet connection or having to rely on the cloud. Cloud is completely optional with Mylio Photos. We are not a cloud service, but we can connect to other third-party cloud services if you choose to use them. And Mylio Photos also has different mechanisms for protecting your photos. So if you don't have a solid backup plan in place, we can help you get there and make sure you have redundant copies of your images. So if a hard drive dies, your phone falls in the lake, your house burns down, we can help you come up with a solution to make sure your images are protected no matter what circumstances hits you. So let's go ahead and talk a bit about the program and how you can get started. And are there any questions so far? It looks like John has a question in the chat.
Yeah, I'm replying to him, but you can
Excellent.
address it.
Oh, no, go for it. All
Oh,
right.
I was typing something.
Yeah, go ahead and type that in there and we can go ahead and carry on. All right, so getting started with your Mylio account. One thing that I hear often is, why do I need an account? Well, Mylio Photos is an application and a service. The application is what you download to your computer, your phone, etc., that allows you to have things talk to each other. The mechanism that lets those things talk is your account, and that's the service side of Mylio Photos. So we provide a service that creates a secure connection between your devices, allowing them to talk to each other. And that's what facilitates your library syncing between all of your devices. So that's why an account is necessary. Once you get into the software, you log in on each device with your account. And that way, Mylio Photos on each of those devices knows that it can talk to every other device that's signed in with that user account. So let's talk a bit about creating an account and logging in. We usually recommend starting on a computer and starting in a web browser. So let me go ahead and jump over to Safari here. This is my web browser of choice. And this is the homepage for Mylio.com. So you're going to go over to the account tab here and go down to log in. If this is your first time here and you don't have an account, you can go to no account and sign up and create an account. I already have an account, so I'm going to go ahead and log in and briefly get this done here and sign into my account. So right now I've got my Mylio Photos VIP. I'm logged in with my Angela Mylio account. There's a link right here to download Mylio Photos. It's up here at the top as well. So if you're not automatically redirected when you first log in and you create your account, you can always download a fresh version of the software right here from your account. You can see which devices are connected. Because we're going to walk through the setup, I don't have any devices added to my account yet. We'll work on that in a little bit. So there's different things you can do to manage your account here. But the biggest part is just creating that account and then downloading the software and getting started from there. So let's jump back over to the presentation and go on to installing the software. Once you click that download button in your browser, you're going to go to your downloads folder on your computer and locate the installer file. So for Windows users, that's going to be the Mylio_x64 or the Mylio.dmg on Mac. Double click that and follow the on-screen instructions to install the software. Once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the software and learn how to configure this so you're set up for success. So from here, I'm going to jump over to the application and actually walk you through a setup. And this is the first screen that you're going to see. It welcomes you, tells you a little bit about what Mylio Photos is all about. And the next screen asks you to log in with that account you just created in your browser. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in. Give me just a second. There we go. Make sure I remember my password. All right. So the next question I'm going to ask you is, where are your photos stored? People have their pictures in different places. They might be mostly on your phone. They might be on an external drive. They might be scattered in different places on your computer. So you'll want to consider where your existing images already live and have an idea of where those are. You don't have to know where all of them are right now, but just have an idea of where most of your stuff is. And go ahead and click the next button. It just walks you through telling you what Mylio is going to do. And we can click forward here. The first decision you're going to have to make is about your Mylio library folder. So let's go ahead and jump back to the presentation here and talk about the Mylio library folder. The biggest thing to understand is it's the default location for your future imports. Now, that doesn't mean you have to import things to this folder, but it's going to be the default. And then where should it be located? The location you choose should have plenty of storage because we anticipate you're going to be taking more pictures over time and adding more images to your library. We recommend that an external hard drive with a lot of space, or if you have a desktop computer with multiple drives or a lot of hard drive space, you can use a desktop computer. Laptops, smartphones, things like that with smaller hard drives are not great options for your Mylio library folder. My big thing that I recommend is a brand new external hard drive. Depending on the size of your library, that can be anywhere from a 1 to 2 terabyte drive up to Seagate makes ones up to 18 to 20 terabytes. So if you have a huge library, you've been taking pictures with a DSLR or mirrorless for a long time, you might want to invest in one of those. Otherwise, if you're just pulling in pictures from your smartphone, a 2 terabyte drive, something small and inexpensive might be exactly what you need. And don't be afraid of those big drives either. Prices have come down substantially. You can get them for less than $400, sometimes less than $300, depending on which size that you need. They're very, very accessible. And starting with a fresh hard drive of Mylio Photos is great. I understand that not everybody's able to do that. So you just pick a drive that you have some storage available on, and you can go from there, but it's up to you. That's my recommendation there. So the next question we're going to get asked inside of Mylio Photos is, do you want to create a new folder or select an existing folder? So for most people, I think a new folder is probably the way to go. But if you have your media already organized exactly the way you want it, let's say you have already purchased that big hard drive, you've moved everything into that hard drive and it is already impeccably organized, and you know where everything is, and you have a top level folder you can select, you might want to choose existing folder. And that's going to bring everything in that folder into Mylio Photos. One thing to note, if you go down that route, is that import and ingest process for Mylio to scan all of those images all at once can take a fair bit of time. So just be warned, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just bringing in all of those images. If you start with a new folder, you have a little bit more flexibility in how you bring those images in, and you can do smaller chunks at a time, but it's completely up to you. For most people, I think starting with that new folder is the best way, but there's no wrong answer here. So let's go ahead and jump back over here, and I'm going to create a new folder and go forward here, and I'm going to choose, let me change the location. Choose library folder location, and it's going to pull up the Finder on my Mac, or if you're on a Windows machine, it'll pull up Explorer. And I'm going to go down to what I have named here as new hard drive. And this is a brand new hard drive with nothing else on it. So my recommendation, as I said, is to start with a brand new drive that has room for you to grow. And I'm going to choose new folder, and I'm going to call this Mylio, and choose create and open. So now it's going to make my Mylio library folder here on volumes, new hard drive Mylio. Looks good. And we'll go ahead and complete that setup. Give that a moment. Congratulations. And go ahead and say, got it. Now, the next question it asks is about the sample library. So the first thing I want to emphasize with this is it's very easy to add and extremely easy to remove. So it shows you what an organized photo library looks like. You can use it to experiment and play with things if you're just jumping in and getting started and not sure what Mylio is capable of. It also has a one-click uninstall, so you can get rid of it whenever you want. You can add and remove it later on as well, but it doesn't leave any residual files on your computer or in your library. So it's very cool to be able to download it, play with it, and then get rid of it. And then if you want to play with it again, you can download it again later. So that's what we're talking about with the sample library. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, install sample library. And we'll notice up here in the upper right, our activities and notifications is going through and telling me what's going on. I can click next. It's going to walk me through a few of the notable things here in the application. And I'm just going to click done. And we can jump over to the all photos view, and there's the sample library. So it's telling you exactly how to remove it when you're ready. And I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And if you want to remove the sample library and maybe you installed it, you didn't mean to, You can always go up here to the help menu and choose remove sample library. It really is that simple, and it removes every trace of it from your system. I'm going to close that for now, and let's take a little walk through what is in Mylio Photos. So these are some of the main categories of areas that you're going to dive into and want to explore as you get familiar with the program. So we have up here at the top what we call views. So we have all photos, calendar, map, people, etc. These different views are different ways to interact with your photos. All photos is everything in your library. You can double click on an image to see it larger. At the bottom of the screen, we have a film strip. If you don't want that film strip there, you can turn it off up here in what we call the More menu. And you can go to film strip and simply turn that off and get rid of it. If you want it back, turn it on, completely up to you. When you're ready to go back to that grid view, you can hit the escape key, or you can hit the back button here up in the upper left corner. So that's just some very basic ways to navigate around the program. And that works similarly with all of these different views. Another thing to note is, let's say we go into our folders view and into our sample library, and we're going and drilling down into some of these subfolders inside of this library. And if we switch to albums and then come back to folders, you'll notice we're still in that subfolder. If you want to get back to the top level, all you have to do on any of these views is double click and it takes you back to the top level. So that's a really good thing to know. Let's see here. Calendar view lets you navigate by date. It defaults to the decade view. You can double click into any year and view things by month, into any month, view things by day. And if you click on a particular day, it's going to take you to all photos from that day. Again, I can double click and go back up to the top level. Map lets you see all of your pictures on a map. If you want to see everything that was taken here in a certain area, you just click on the little pin there on the map, and it takes you to all of the photos from that location. If you want to zoom in closer, you can use the slider here at the bottom, and you can see that those tabs, those pins, start to separate out and get a little bit smaller, so you can see things from different areas. When the map is zoomed back out, things are grouped together more. So it's just a matter of how you want to interact with it. People is where you can go to tag faces and view the faces that you've already tagged. So all of these people have already been tagged. Up here in the upper left, we have an untagged category where you can go in and where Mylio has already found faces, you can tell them who it is. So I can click on this and I can type in who I think this might be. There it is, Michael. And now his face has been tagged. If you want to do multiple at once, check out this batch tagging, and it's going to start grouping people together. So I know that this is Colleen. I can go up here to who is this and type in Colleen. And now all of those pictures have been tagged. And you can go down the list and quickly tag multiple images in your library. It's a fantastic thing to do. And it is a little bit addicting and a lot of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. Albums are like playlists for your photos. Let's talk a little bit about the difference between albums and folders. Folders are a mirror image of what's on your hard drive. So if you have folders on your hard drive, those folders are mimicked in Mylio Photos. Albums, on the other hand, are like playlists. You can pull things from different folders. You can take a picture and put it into 4 different albums if you want. There's no limit. And we have subfolders or sub-albums. We can go into this and see what's in these different albums. Let's see here. This one has sub-albums. You can see there's 59 photos and 3 albums inside this bird's album. And so we have eagles, pelicans, flightless cormorant, and then some miscellaneous bird photos that got thrown in here that we don't know what kind of birds they are. So you can group things together in a variety of different ways. And it really depends on how you want to think about your photos and how you want to organize them. I have one top level folder for my portfolio, and then I have different segments of my portfolio for black and whites, for architecture, for different areas of the world as subfolders, sub-albums underneath that top level album. So it's up to you what you want to do with them. They're very flexible and very, very helpful in keeping things organized and easy to find when you need them. And we touched earlier on folders here. So this is the sample library folder. I haven't brought in any of my own images yet. And these are actual folders inside the sample library. Next, let's take a look at the dashboard. And this is where you're going to find a lot of information about your account and about the status of your Mylio Photos system. The most common place you're going to want to go to is devices. And you can see that I have my MacBook Pro and I have that new hard drive that I added. You can click on any of these devices that you have and check out some of the particular stats about these devices and change many settings here. We're not going to go into these settings very much today, but I wanted to let you know where you could find them. Another place you're going to want to check out is actions. And for a lot of people, find duplicates is going to be a lot of fun. This lets you find matching images in your library and get rid of the duplicates and save hard drive space, make yourself a little bit more sane as you're trying to find things. Really feels good to clean things up. So that's pretty important as well. A few other notable things. This plus button here in the upper right is where you can go to add media. I'll walk you through that process here in just a moment. And a couple of menus that you need to be aware of. So we have the More menu up here in the upper right. And what's in this menu changes depending on what view you're looking at. So let's go ahead and switch to the All Photos view and go up to that More menu. And you notice we have different options now. You can change the look and feel of the grid view here. You can change the grid style. Annotations are these little annotations here on each photo. So right now we have enabled to show when there's GPS data. This one has been flagged and has a purple color label. And there's different annotations you can add to a photo. You can create a slideshow and access the main settings. You can also find help here, but there's also a help menu here and also one at the top of the page that all have the same stuff. So there's a lot of ways to get additional assistance if you need it. And then the other menu you want to know is down here in the bottom right. We call this the Actions menu. And you can also access the Actions menu by right-clicking on anything. So let's go ahead and right-click on a picture. This is exactly the same as the Actions menu that's in the corner. The reason you can access it from both places is if you're on a computer and you have a mouse that right-clicks, using the right-click is the easiest way to get there. If you're using a touchscreen device, you can just tap that icon in the corner and get to exactly the same options. Any other questions popping up that we need to address, JC?
Not so far.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and jump back to the presentation here for just a minute. And we can talk about adding photos. So this is where things really start to get fun, is when you bring your own images into Mylio Photos. So let's go back over to the application and add some pictures. I'm going to click the plus button. And you have a few options here. You can add media accessible from this device. That's going to be things that are in folders on your computer, in folders on external hard drives, etc., or even from a memory card on a camera or from a camera. You can add media from an online service, so we can help you download and back up pictures from Facebook and Flickr and Google Photos. And you can bring in pictures from photos from Mac OS, iPhoto, or old iPhoto or Aperture libraries as well. We're going to choose right now add media accessible from this device, and I'm going to bring in some photos from another external hard drive that I have. So I'm going to scroll down to this one called My Photos and give that a second to load. And I'm going to choose this folder here called My Amazing Photos. This has a collection of different images in it, and choose Open. Now we have to choose how we want to add these. You can link them, which leaves them at where they are, but shows them in Mylio. You can copy them to your Mylio library folder on that new drive, or you can move them. And moving them deletes them from their existing location and physically moves them to a new location. For this particular instance, I'm going to choose link them because I want to leave them on that drive, but I also want to have Mylio know where they are. So I'm going to choose link. You can see that it's linking this folder, and I choose link now. And that's going to bring those images into my Mylio catalog, but leave that folder where it is on that hard drive. So it's been successfully added. Now, if I go over here to folders and double click to go back to that top level, you'll notice my Mylio Photos Library is empty because I didn't add anything there. But if I scroll down, it should pop up. There we go. Took a minute. And there's My Amazing Photos. You can see it's starting to populate, pull in some of those thumbnails and previews, and building up those images. If you see these little placeholders here, that just means Mylio is building those previews, and they'll show up soon. So you can see it's building fairly quickly. This wasn't a huge folder, it was only 323 photos. So it won't take terribly long, but you can get an idea of what it looks like when you bring images in. So now that I've added these photos, I can go through them and start taking a look. You can see it's a little bit blurry because we're looking at that thumbnail, Now we're looking at the original JPEG, and you can see what quality of image you have right here in the info category. Now, if you're not seeing this panel, it might be collapsed. You can just click this arrow here on the side to open and close that panel and go to the info panel and get a lot of information about your pictures. So you can see I've already changed the name on this one. I've added keywords. If I want to, I can add categories. If there were people in this image, I could tag people. All sorts of things you can do from this info panel. So that's in a nutshell how you add images to Mylio Photos. It's very easy. And I prefer the method of linking because it lets you leave things where they are and bring them in. And then you'll notice if I go over here to the sync panel, another important area, expand devices, you can see that the My Photos drive where these images live has all of the originals, and then new hard drive where I added that Mylio folder with my Mylio library folder. It also now has all of the originals. So I've created a backup of my images. So if this My Photos drive dies, I still have everything here on this new hard drive. So it really is powerful to have one that is considered a vault, and then one that, this is where your images live that maybe you work off of. And let's go jump over here to the dashboard really quick and take a look at devices. And I want to show you the difference between a drive that is a vault and one that is not a vault. So you can see the new hard drive, the one we initially added when we set up, is designated as a vault. And this means this device wants to have everything that I add to my library. So any images that I add to Mylio Photos, regardless of their source, they're going to go to this new hard drive and create a backup of all of those images. I can link folders from other drives. It's not going to put everything else that's in this vault onto this other drive, but I have another copy here. So it creates another layer of protection for my images. All right. Any questions?
No questions so far.
Awesome. So as you get going with Mylio Photos, you're going to probably want to start syncing those images up between different devices. Mylio can be installed on a variety of devices. So your Windows computers, Mac computers, Android tablets and phones, iOS, so iPhones and iPads. And once you log into your Mylio account on that device, you're able to get to your library from any of those devices. It's insanely powerful and a lot of fun, especially when you're out and about and somebody's mentioning a topic like, your aunt's 70th birthday, and you go, you know what? I can find those photos so quickly. It's really a ton of fun. That's pretty much the core of getting started with the software, but I want to leave you with some other resources. So most of you are going to be getting in there and you're going to want to learn more. And we have courses for you. So I mentioned earlier the in-app help menu. I'll just point that out one more time. It's up here in the upper right. That's the easiest way to get to it. And that pulls up a lot of help resources right here. So the how-to guide is our manual. You can join our community. Troubleshooting will take you to our support forum. Frequently asked questions will take you to our website, and a bunch of questions that we get about Mylio Photos in general. These are primarily pre-sale questions, but there's a lot of things that I go in there every now and again. I just want to refresh you on, wait a second, how does this work? Or what's this policy? FAQs has a ton of great information. If you add that sample library and you want to remove it, you can do it right here. If you run into a technical problem that you're not able to find an answer for, you can easily contact our support team. So JC and his team are available right here in the application. Show support options on startup is probably something that you'll end up, you hopefully will never have to touch. But if you do, chances are it's something that our support team is going to walk you through. Same goes for console. And then about Mylio Photos just tells you a bit more about the version that you're using and things like that. So here's some direct links to a lot of those resources. If you want to scan the QR code here on the right, you can do that. And it's going to take you to a link in our community with all of these other links, easily accessible and at your fingertips. You might even want to bookmark that page, but that'll take you to where you can get to the product manual. Inside the product manual, we have a quick start guide, which goes through a lot of what we talked about here today, but it goes a bit more in depth. There's individual videos for different segments, so you can go through and watch that for more information. Also encourage you to join our community. It's a really fun place to hang out, share photos, ask questions. Much of our marketing team hangs out there, and you'll see me posting quite often in that space and answering questions. We also have inside the community the Mylio Fundamentals course. which dives a lot deeper than that quick start guide. It's about a 90-minute course broken down into modules. So you don't have to do the whole thing. You can do it start to finish if you want, or you can jump around and just learn more about the areas that you need more knowledge in. If you have a technical question, our support forum is really cool. We have a lot of users who are highly adept with technical issues and they help out other users. And that forum is also monitored by our support team and several of our engineers. So that's a pretty cool place if you really want to dive into what's going on behind the scenes and get some of those answers. I mentioned the FAQs earlier and how to contact support. That takes you directly to our support website. So hopefully those resources are useful and keep you going and give you the option to contact us if you need help with something specific. So that leaves us with our Q&A session. What I can do at this point is unmute everybody. And if you have questions, you can go ahead and actually ask them. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute. There we go.
John just asked us a question. And I could use a little bit more information. He says he's been loading new photos this past few months to a photos library and a Mylio home photos library on his desktop external drive. And he wants to know if that's an unnecessary duplication or waste of space. And I'm not quite sure, John, if you're referring to two different applications, like perhaps Apple Photos and then Mylio and then your external hard drive. So
yeah, I have been loading. Whenever I load it, first of all, it wants to go into Dropbox, and I'm not paying for it anymore because I'm at my limit. So I'm not doing that. I cancel, but then it used to load it automatically to Apple Photos on if I do it on my laptop. Since I've been doing more, getting into Luminar Neo, I've been wanting to have things go separately there and not have to use it only as a what do you call that? As a subsidiary of Apple Photos. And I thought the best way to do that was to put it separately on my external hard drive, which is, I guess, is that library I've been creating. But then when I bought Milio, my goal was to be able to have things seamlessly go across my devices so that I can do edits on my laptop, as I said last time I was here, in front of TV, and have those edits show up on my desktop. Well,
right.
I don't seem to be able to do that unless I'm only in Apple Photos and I'm using Luminar Neo as a whatever you call it.
Neo is more of an editing application, so you're probably using it as a supplemental editing system, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have that library on my new external. I bought as I mentioned to Angela last time, I bought a Mac Studio and a Studio Display, which is probably much more than I need, but now I need to learn how to use it. But and I wanted to have everything on. I need everything on an external hard drive since the display only has 500 gigabytes internally to it. The Studio does. So I bought a 2 terabyte extreme SSD drive. I know won't last me more than a year or two, but so I've got on that external drive, I've got a library thing, which I think is my photos library, and I've got a Mylio Photos. So my question is, there's no need to have them in both places, right? If they're on the same drive, in both folders of that drive, or is there an advantage?
It does seem redundant. I mean, unless there's something specific about Apple Photos that you want to be using it, creating an Apple Photos library and a Mylio Photos library is going to be redundant. The Apple Photos library doesn't play well with others. It's proprietary. You can't see where the files are. They're not going to show up on the file system. Mylio, on the other hand, is going to put the photos right in the folder. You can open them with any editing application and you can see exactly where they are. And when you change something there, it changes across all of your devices, whether they're Apple devices or not. So it really is about what your ultimate goals are. The way I have my system set up, if that's helpful at all, is I don't use Apple Photos at all. I use Mylio. Mylio is the center of my photo universe. It becomes the hub. So all my photos get imported into Mylio either automatically from my phone and on my iPad, for example, or manually, when I take new photos, I add them to Milio, to the folder that I want them to be their permanent resident, right? Like if I take a trip, I have a folder called trips, and every time I take a trip, I create a new folder, and it's like, okay, I went to Japan in 2024. Here's my photos from that trip. Those photos, Milio will, once you import them, will replicate them to all of your devices. So my laptop has a folder called Japan 2024. My desktop does. On my phone through Milio, I can access that. On my iPad through Milio, I can access that. And all 4 of my backup devices, my storage devices, have my entire library. And when I want to edit something, I just go into Milio. I say, I want to edit this photo in Lightroom, or I want to edit this photos in Topaz, or I want to edit this photo in Luminar. I make the edits, and then I save them right back to the hard drive, to the storage space where that photo originated from, and Milio picks up those changes.
Yep. Exactly what
So,
I would recommend. So when you're editing, John, from Apple Photos, you're using probably the Apple Photos extension for Luminar, which
yes,
it
extension.
appears that it opens right up in Photos, and then it takes you right back into Photos. So that, I mean, that is an easy workflow. If you're going to transition to having everything in Milio, like JC said, you're going to use Luminar Neo as an external editor, and you're going to do an export when you're done, and export a copy of that back to Mylio Photos so you can see that edit in your Mylio Photos library. Because Luminar's library is separate, your edits are stored in that library. You're not going to see them on that image until you do an export, which is a little different than when you're using it as an extension, which automatically bakes those changes in to a file.
Right. You could simply link your Apple Photos to Milio and then keep doing everything you're doing, and then use Milio just for syncing your devices. In that case, ignore the advice I gave you earlier. You're going to want to set up every device as a vault so that the full resolution copies of your photos are being transferred. But that means make sure you have enough storage both on your laptop and on your desktop and on that external drive. Milio will replicate everything to every device. So that's another way in which you could set up your world, if it makes sense to you, and if you don't want to change the workflow you have.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure what I need to do. I actually like Luminar Neo is my primary photo editing device, but there are 2 or 3 tools on Apple Photo that are better. Like the retouch function is really a lot better than the erase function of Luminar Neo, and the enhance or accents are sometimes do different things. So I want to have my cake and eat it too. The problem is when you do it as an extension of Apple Photos, you bake it in and you can't undo something if you want to make a slight change once you've exported it. So once you've come back to Apple, if I use Neo as a dropdown, that's the tool I was trying to think of. Then I go back to Apple Photos. I'm sort of stuck with what I got, and I can't undo little parts of it without starting all over.
Yeah, that's one of the drawbacks. Is the difference between what is called destructive editing and non-destructive editing. Non-destructive editing, which is what Milio does, is it always lets you go back to the original, always lets you undo something. But the editing capabilities in Milio itself are very limited compared to what you can do even on Apple Photos, because that's not what we do.
Yeah. So if I use my home as Milio, I'm in Luminar Neo, I'll pull the photo out of Milio. Is that how that works? And then edit it?
Yeah.
What if I want to go?
Can you demo that?
Yeah, I should be able to.
I don't have Neo installed on this computer.
And then what if I want to sneak over to Apple Photos to do a retouch because it does a damn good job of cleaning up something that's on a border? Am I stuck in Apple Photos and I can't get back to?
Yeah, Apple Photos makes everything extremely proprietary. So that's the challenge.
So let's go ahead and grab this image here. Go to photo.
But I would be surprised if there was something Apple Photos can do that Neo cannot.
Well, it's just a matter of different tools work differently.
Yeah.
The thing with Luminar Neo and using their erase tool is to do, okay, it's not going to make this easy on me.
It's when I want to erase something next to something else, like that dog photo you have, Angela. If I wanted to erase that white rug right below his nose, I could
Mhm.
do that easy in Apple Retouch, but with Erase and Neo, it'll erase part of his nose or something.
Yeah. Give me just a second here. I'm in a user account that I don't usually use for editing, so I need to find my my Skylum account here. Should do it.
The other thing that we can show you, John, that might help shed light on this is what happens at the file system level when you're interacting with both Apple Photos and Mylio. And I'll let Angela do this first, and then I'll demonstrate that.
Okay.
All right, so this just brought this right in to Luminar Neo. Get one of this zoom window out of the way here. And I can go over here to edit. Let's say I want to get rid of this section of the twig. So I can go to erase, and you want to make sure that your erase brush is on the smaller side. So not big, not obscenely bigger than what you need, but
Okay.
make sure you get a nice swath of area around what you want so it knows what to sample and what to get rid of. And then click erase. And it usually does a pretty good job.
Yeah, it would on that end, but think about the stick right by the bird's breast. If you wanted that removed,
This one right
then
here.
then it's a job.
Well, let's see. Let's go ahead and zoom into like 200%. And again, you want to zoom in and get that brush in there. So let's get rid of that piece right there.
No, that's
And
good.
do a little bit at a time.
So it helps
especially
to
in
zoom
detail
in
works.
also.
Yes, hugely.
And so the other question is, so your changes, are they now in Mylio?
No. So right now, these changes only exist in the Luminar catalog. If I want to get
Okay.
this change back to Mylio, what I do is go up here to File, Export. And there's a couple of different things here. So Luminar does not make it easy to get back to your original folder. So it helps to know what folder it came from. So you can go ahead and open it up and figure out what folder that was in. This was part of the sample library here. So let me see here. Probably be in this folder. It's taking its time to load here. Or would it be in this one, JC? To put it back in the sample library. I should have chosen one out of my library. I'm going to go ahead and put it right here into the Mylio folder. And that's going to go ahead and export that with whatever settings I have. So typically I would export, if this is something that I want to have portfolio worthy, I'm going to export a high quality TIFF. If it's just something I want to share online, a lower quality JPEG is perfectly fine. It depends on what you want to do with it. Now, if we go back over here to Mylio and take a look at our folders, double click to get to that top level, it should pop up here in this folder. Now, sometimes if things don't sync up fast enough, the easiest trick to do is quit Mylio Photos and restart it. So let's go ahead and do that here really quick. And that usually forces it to refresh and look at that folder again. So you can see it's going to start to think here in a second. We'll take a look at the activities. Should have brought that back in there. That's interesting.
It's the sample library does offer some challenges because of
let me try this with one of my images here. So actually I go to folders. So these ones are actually available locally here on the drive. Let's say if we want to get rid of that little twig back there in the background. So go ahead and grab this image and I'm going to right click on this. Usually it'll pull up the last used application here. So if it's not there, you just go to the photo menu and open with and Luminar Neo. And that's going to pull in that photo. And we can go over to edit, erase. And again, this is one because that's pretty detailed and also shallow depth of field back there. This is where I'm going to zoom into like 200% and then grab the brush. And because that's so shallow, I'm going to go little by little. And use your bracket keys to make that brush size a little bit smaller. Like so. There we go. Twig gone. Now, if I want to get this back to Mylio, I can go ahead and go up to File, Export. And instead of choosing the Mylio folder, I'm going to go back to the My Photos, which is where I know this came from, and put it back into the folder where it originated. So I'm going to hit Save. And now it should come back here into this folder.
Oh, you
we
saved that
then
as a
have-
new image, yeah.
Yeah, it came in
You
as a
have
new
two
image.
copies there then, one, the old and the new.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that's, I
But-
mean, it's up to you how you want to do this. You can also force it to stack them together if you want. Typically, it really depends on your taste. If you want to be able to see the old and the new. If you didn't want to see these together, let me go ahead. I'm going to delete this one that
But
I just exported.
You don't have to delete it, just change the name.
Oh, sure. I could have done that.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, I want to show it straight from.
Right.
So let me go here and do export again. Now, if I take the same file name and I just add underscore display, Mylio will automatically stack these together. So it's going to export and go back over here to Mylio. And in a minute here, once it updates, it's going to show the edited one. There we go. The edited one is now showing. And you'll see over here in the info panel, if we scroll up, actually need to make sure that one's selected. It now says JPEG and JPEG. There's two copies of that there, the original and the edit. If we look at this inside of the external drive, we're going to see Fall Perfection underscore display and Fall Perfections, the original and the display copy. So they're automatically stacked together when you add that underscore display in Mylio. So it's up to you if you want to see them side by side or only see your
Okay.
edit.
All right, thank you.
And the
welcome.
advantage here is you can always go back to that original, edit it again, save it with the same name underscore display, and you're just replacing the display version of that image while preserving the original.
So
All right.
here's the thing.
Okay.
Because Luminar uses its own catalog, I can go back up here to the catalog into my single image edits, find that edit that I made. And let's say I want to do a little bit more work to this. I want to amp up the structure a little bit more. And maybe I want to go into color and HSL. Let's do this a little bit obvious. I want to make, yeah, hue is where I want to be. I want to make those reds more orange and make that orange more yellow. So that's actually not terribly attractive, but I want to make those yellows more orange. Okay, but I'm making it different, right? Like if we take a look here at the before and the after, it's very different. Now, if I go up here and do a file export again, and again, add the underscore display, it's going to overwrite that other version, that other display copy, and automatically stack it. So it says, do you want to replace? Yes, I want to replace. And now if I go back over to Mylio, give it a couple of seconds and it should update here with the uglier version.
Okay.
What's cool is that every time you make this change, that change, you're going to see it in your phone, you're going to see it on your laptop, you're going to see it on all of your devices.
Exactly.
that's
And
what
it's
I
also
like.
saving it to your storage devices. So it's
It's getting back.
automatically building that replication and backing up the work you've done.
Yep.
So it saves it to my external SSD drive on my desktop without me doing anything. It just, Mylio
Correct.
just does that.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
As long as that SSD drive is listed over here under devices, it will.
Yeah,
it's set up as
and
a
mine
vault.
is, yeah.
Right. Yeah. If as long as it's set up as a vault, it will get that. So if we go back over
Well,
to the folders,
I
There's
missed
the
that
ugly
part
one.
about I missed the part about the vault. Tell me that again.
so when you have a device, a drive designated as a vault, it's set up to want everything.
Oh,
So
okay.
everything will get sent there. This drive where I
Okay.
had my other photos on, if I brought in stuff from, let's say, Apple Photos, I don't want those necessarily replicated there. I just want them to go to the vault, which is wanting everything.
Okay.
Okay. So, but you can see that one did update to the uglier version. and I don't like the
Excellent.
uglier version. So I'm just going to go over here to external. Let's see here.
Well, did you lose the pretty version
It's
by?
so my original is still there. So I'm just going to
Okay.
just discard that display image and come back over here. And that'll, again, it'll repopulate here in a moment and bring back my prettier version. And then if I want to in Luminar, I can step back over here to edits and reset that color adjustment, reset that structure adjustment, and I could export another display copy if I wanted to
Without the twig.
without the twig. So, or, you can do all sorts of things, turn it into a black and white, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
All right. Any other questions that have popped up while we've been chatting Luminar?
No, everybody's very quiet.
All
So I
right.
have a question.
Sure, go for
Please.
it.
Actually, I think you answered part of this, but I'm brand new to Mylio. And while we were on the call, I got an alert on my iPhone that my storage was full because Mylio is populating photos onto my iPhone. So I think, JC, what you said earlier was maybe getting rid of iPhotos or the storage of those Apple photos on my iPhone and using Mylio instead, right?
So there's a couple of things. Angela, do you mind if I share my phone screen?
Oh, no, go ahead. I was going to pull up the Free Up Space article really quick.
Oh, yeah.
Manual. So free up space in your camera roll media library. This is one option you can do. And then the other option is here. I don't have a mobile device selected, but what I could do here is select my phone here in the devices and then go into device quality and make sure this is set to thumbnails instead of auto optimize. And that's going to take up the least amount of space. So,
Oh, okay. Okay.
Also, the storage setting on the phone itself.
that
Right.
too. So do you want to show that, JC?
Yeah, let me share my screen. So this is my Milio library, like my actual personal Milio library. And here's all of my devices. If I look here, I have a lot of devices. One of them is my phone. And my phone is set up to have thumbnails, but also to save all of the previews. I have a good amount of storage on that phone. But if I share the phone itself on the screen, and it just takes a second, bear with me.
Mhm.
There's only so many settings that I can change on a remote device, right? This is my computer. I'm not on the phone. But if I bring my phone over here, here's the screen for my phone. Let's make that a little bit larger. And now I'm actually working on my phone. Here's my phone. If I tap on that, now the device card gives me more options, one of which is the device storage. And if I look at the device storage for my phone, I can allocate certain amount of space for Milio to use. Now, this is a little bit reverse of what most people are going to think. What this slider does is it tells Milio how much space not to use on the phone. So what I've told Milio in the case of my phone is like, always leave 40 gigabytes available for all my other applications. If I click auto manage, then Milio is just going to use a formula to calculate that, which is actually pretty close to what I had selected, 44 gigs. So look at that slider, and maybe you can allocate more space to Milio there by simply moving the slider and leaving less space for other applications.
So where is that that menu you're showing now?
So the way you access that menu, so here's my phone, right? If I click on the little icon of the computer up here, the computer on the screen, that takes me to my dashboard, which initially will look like that. And if you click on devices, that will show you all your devices. And then you click on the phone itself, and here's all the settings from your phone. So the two settings you're looking for, one is device storage, the other one is device quality. It
Okay.
kind of shows you that if I were to set up my phone to be a vault, it would need to have 750 gigabytes almost of storage to hold my entire library.
Right.
If I set it to thumbnails, it's only going to have the thumbnails version of the photo, which only takes about 850 megabytes, just a fraction, about 1% the size of the full library. Or I can have lots of other options in between. But what's really cool is that even if I only have thumbnails on my phone, as long as Milio can see another photo, the moment I click on any image, Milio is going to go and retrieve a better version of that image and display it for me. So if I
Okay.
click on that image, it was just the thumbnail, but because I started interacting with it, Milio said, oh, JC's computer is nearby. It has a preview version. Let me grab that so he can see a better version of that photo. And I could even go as far as asking Milio to download the original by just using the actions menu here and say, download the original version of this photo. Like if I wanted to export this photo or send it to somebody in the full original version, all of that. So it's about how you manage your storage. Now, the last thing that Angela mentioned that I also wanted to show you is freeing up space on your device. Two things you want to consider. One is on the device card itself, there is this option to clear the cache right here.
Okay.
The cache is the place where Milio is going to put things that it downloaded because you were interacting with them, right? So like I just click on that photo that was only saved as a thumbnail. I started playing with it. Milio brought a preview. That preview is now in the cache. Milio knows that I don't necessarily want to have that all the time, but it brought it for me so that I could have a better experience. When I clear the cache, Milio says, okay, you have 387 originals in the phone. Those originals are safely stored elsewhere, so I could delete them from the phone. So if I click yes here, I'm going to free up a bunch of space within the Milio allocation. I can also free up space outside of the Milio allocation. So, you know, we have this Apple Photos library also. So my photos are both in Milio and the Apple Photos library. I can ask Milio to clean up my Apple Photos library by going into settings, free up space on this device. And what Milio is going to do is it's going to go, okay, this photo has been saved to JC's vaults. Is safely stored elsewhere. It's okay to delete it from the camera roll on the phone because we have it saved somewhere else. And it'll do that automatically for you. You can set up a schedule. You can do it one at a time. There's lots of options there. But that will free up space on your phone that then you can reallocate to Milio if you so desire.
Okay, perfect. No, that's very helpful. I have
Great.
one more question.
No, you asked too many questions already. Of course, tell me.
Well, it has to do with because I'm a Lightroom user,
Right.
and so my main storage is external, and all those photos that come into Milio, no problem. Now I started using the plugin in Lightroom in order to update photos. What I noticed and it works extremely well. Is there a capacity limit in terms of what you put into that plugin? And if there is, you know, does it make sense to, you know, be very diligent about what you put into that plugin?
You mean how big that catalog can
way
get?
to organize that?
I haven't come across any limit. I've put in, you know, huge amounts from many old folders to bring those edits over to Milio. I've never hit a limit. And as far as keeping this part organized, Lightroom kind of does that for you. So if you go in and you make an edit to any of these photos, it's actually going to jump up to a section at the top and it's going to ask you if you want to republish them.
Yeah,
right. There's really not a whole lot of organization you have to do here. It's kind of your organization in Lightroom is done in your folders, your collections, and other things.
Yeah.
This is kind of just a catch-all for things that you want to have sent to Milio. and you don't really have to pay much attention to it. If you
Yeah.
take and drag a photo into here that's already there, it's not going to change anything.
Yeah. The only
Okay.
thing I would say is that this is just another example of a collection, and it's just being tracked by your Lightroom catalog. So the only thing that's increasing in size is the size of the catalog, which is really a database. Any limits that you have with a collection is likely you're going to have the same limits with the Mylio Photos plugin photo stream. But I don't know of any limits. I've never seen anybody run into a limit. We have customers. We have one customer with 4 million photos in Milio. And we have lots of customers with well over 1 million photos that collaborate back and forth with Lightroom. And I've never seen an issue. So I wouldn't worry about it.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Very
if it
helpful.
breaks, just contact me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Of
You're
course.
very welcome. All right. Well, thank you all for being here today. I hope it was helpful and you learned a couple of things. And we hold these getting started webinars every couple of weeks. So if you ever wanted to jump back into another one, you're welcome to do it. The program is the same, but you're always welcome to ask new questions. And of course, the recordings are available on the community, usually within a couple of business days after the webinar. I also want to invite you to join our coffee break series. Those we do every week and the topics rotate. So tomorrow we're actually having one. JC is presenting on traveling with Mylio Photos, and it's his
I am?
part 2. You are. Aren't you glad I'm letting you know now? If you haven't caught it, you can always go back and watch the recording from his part 1. It was great. Lots of very helpful information. So we hope you'll take a look at that. And then we've got some other interesting topics coming up through October and into November. And I'll be getting more of those posted here in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we can see you on those. There's lots of time for Q&A there as well. So once you're up and going, those are probably the ones that you're going to want to get into. So I hope to see you there. I want to wish you guys a great rest of your day. And as you get going with Mylio, just keep in mind that it's a huge program. There is a learning curve. Pick and choose the areas that make the most sense to you, that you want to use. You don't have to use everything here. There's a lot of options to fit a lot of different styles of working with your images. And there's no rule that says you have to use them all. So don't be overwhelmed. Take it step by step. Check out those courses that we mentioned and have fun. So hope to see you at a coffee break soon and enjoy the rest of your day. Yes.
They're all coming tomorrow.
Hopefully, yes. I hope to see you all there. All right, everyone. Have a great day and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much.